Before we start this evening, I have to say that I'm absolutely devastated to hear the news of the passing, of course, of Gerard Murphy of Castle Island. Geordie, of course, as I knew him, would probably be on the phone to me, I suppose, at least once a week, if not even more, telling me how much he enjoyed the crack with the lads. And he'd often be ringing in about great ideas for guests and topics and the whole lot. And of course, he would always try to get a Leeds corner in, which we never actually managed to do. And I knew Geordie, of course, I suppose down through the years, business of getting medals, like everybody else out there inside in clubs and associations. It's a tough business to be in, how many medals and how quickly you want them. And of course, you always wanted them the day after you needed them as well, which was nearly tough as well. And it was great to kind of go in there to the shop, particularly I suppose his dad Vincent, I suppose he'd regale you with plenty of stories of who came through the door and what stars they met, and there was plenty of stars often going through those doors as well. An institution, of course, I suppose in that town. Of course, in recent times, Geordie, very prominent role, of course, within the Desmond setup, particularly on social media, showcasing the club, I suppose, from the minute the jerseys were lined out all the way to the final score. And he do it kind of in a very fiercely good-humoured, banter way, and no matter where you met him, he'd always leave a smile on your face, and never in a nasty way either. I mean, he'd always have good humour. His views were always well meant as well, and I've no doubt that he'd have loved the crack in Fitzgerald Stadium this weekend as well, dressed in his all-in-one Kerry outfit, and I suppose debating the game. And I can't help feeling that his loss on the Kerry sporting landscape will leave a massive void, because it was the Kerry sporting landscape, while I suppose people will talk about the J, but I mean obviously the Castle Island Blitz, the basketball, the ladies, it didn't really matter. I remember a couple of years ago even going on the tour with the Brosnan gang all the way to Croke Park. Liam, you'd have known Geordie well like ourselves. It's still very raw, still very sore, and we still can't believe it, can we?
It is, yeah. Look, I suppose we all woke up Thursday morning and we heard the news, and a black cloud descended on the Castle Island district, and even Father Massey in the Mass this morning kind of said, look, even though the sun was shining all weekend, it wasn't in Castle Island. But throw Kerry, it was your words there, you hit everything on the head. I suppose they're in the house in Kerry that hasn't received a medal or a pair of football boots from Vincent Murphy Sports in Castle Island. We used to always have a running joke in there with the dad and himself and myself that if anything happened to dad, he would always say he closed down the town for 3 days. Right. And it was funny when the news broke on Thursday. The town did really. The heart was torn out of it, and he was laid to rest today. Now the poor devil, but he did close down the town today. It was fantastic, and a big kudos to all the clubs that came out, the business people and the schools. We marched them up the town, and we turned. I thought it was fabulous, like the people that came out. But we turned the corner above where the Irish school, the boys secondary, and the national school boys as well, and then the flags, and it was just sad, But Geordie would have loved it. That was the character he was, to see that many people out, because even to see small people and the tears in their eyes, because he knew him, from 10 years of age up to 17, 18 years of age, they all knew Geordie, and he's going to be a big loss.
Absolutely massive loss. John Kennedy, I suppose, look, people say institutions and people say, he was a lovely fella too, wasn't he? He'd always had a smile on his face, he'd always had a bit of banter, he always had a joke, and he was fiercely Kerry G as well. I mean, he'd have had some views on Kerry's performance at the weekend.
Oh, huge. He was a sports fanatic, as you said, first of all, but he was a real proud Kerry man, and any inter-county player they went in, they were special. Mm-hmm. I remember the last time I was in, that was for trophies for our development at home, but you couldn't go in and go out with your day.
It wasn't a 5-minute appointment.
No.
And if we were shopping in there, if a Kerry footballer came in, forget about it. He'd leave without the shop.
Absolutely, but he was a mind of information. He was interesting. And he was interested in everything, and he'd always be asking how are things going with different teams. But look, the family, they're an institution in Castle Island, and Vincent and himself, they were amazing to go into, really. Mm-hmm. They looked after everybody as if they were the only customer they had, and the business was really appreciated. And every time he went in, he had a ball or he had something to sign. I remember the last time I went in, he had a ball to sign, and the goat was on it, Morris Fitz and a few. And I said, Geordie, I'm not in that league at all, really. And he said, this is for medal winners only. He said,
right.
you know,
no Brosnan.
and you know, but he'd blow you up, like he'd make you feel, you know. But you know, our condolences to all the family. And like Liam said, you know, a sad weekend in Castle Island.
And the thing with Geordie was, like, before the internet ever came to play, Geordie was the internet in Castle Island. We used to go into him when we were younger, and he'd have the big night book down the back, and you were able to pick out your sneakers or your football boots, and you would have them within a couple of weeks, you know. And they came from all over. You know, from Killarney, from Tralee, basketballers, footballers. When we used to get the football boots inside with Kerry, you know, they mightn't fit you properly, or you had a pair already, you want to change them. They all came to Geordie.
Yeah.
You know, he was that guy that everyone used to come to, and nothing was any trouble to him. You know, at times, all right, you go into him and he might give an old bark, but once you understood his character and everything, it was grand. But you know, it's just a pity that we're all going to miss, you know, this character that we see above O'Connell Street. When Kerry were playing, he'd deck from head to toe in green and gold, taking photographs. That was his thing. I think it was after one of the All-Irelands, he told me he took something like 300 photographs with different people because he was dressed up, and he just loved that. And that was him. And you know, there was an article in the Cork Examiner written by Morris Brosnan, and I think it was fantastic. And like, we have characters like that, and I suppose we don't appreciate them until they're gone. And I think with Geordie gone now, I think it's going to leave a big void in Castle Island, because he was, like, I was always say Vincey was the king of Castle Island, but Geordie was the prince, and he was, because everything, you know, he was always around, and it's you know, it'll be for a while now. People will find it hard to get used to not seeing him around.
Absolutely, it was a great piece by Morris Brosnan, of course, Castle Island man as well, told from the perspective of being a local. And you know, sometimes when you're writing kind of maybe that kind of raw story, it's well told, and like you said, it can be replicated. And
we don't appreciate the Geordies all over the place.
We don't appreciate the Geordies till they're gone. Arrest Eger of Dealish, Geordie Murphy, and I'm sure he'll be looking down on us all through tonight's show anyway, because he'll probably be contradicting most of what you're going to say. Jack O'Connor said after the game, Liam Brosnan, it was a mixed performance. We certainly looked early on as we were a bit off the pace. The whole day kind of seemed a little bit that we were off the pace, but we were on the pace enough to get the result and move on. And that's kind of what it was, really, was it?
It was. Look, I suppose it was disappointing with aspects of the way we played, but you know, we kind of dug out a result, and I suppose that was the main thing, was to get a result out of it. You could see there was a bit of rustiness there. You know, I suppose with our I won't say holiday camp, but there's been a lot of training done, probably not as many games, so it took a while for us to get into it.
They hadn't played in a month, I suppose. I mean, I suppose people are saying, why were they rusty? I mean, they were over in Portugal, they should be flying off the boat, like boat or that kind of way. You mentioned the word disappointing. What in particular was disappointing?
I just thought, look, you know, I suppose our handling. You know, there was opportunities where we could have pushed on. There was, you know, very silly mistakes, as you could call it. You know, the small things that you wouldn't see. That you wouldn't see Kerry teams do. Defensively, I thought we were, you know, our old kind of failings are still there a small bit when teams run at us. You know, which is a fear. I don't see a structure there. No, that's the one thing that when we won the All-Ireland 2 years ago, there was a structure. You could see everyone kind of had a role. I suppose with Jason picking up the injury as well is a big loss. Things had to be juggled around a small bit. But I don't see a pattern in our play at all yet. No, it's early. And it's, you know, we've the Munster final in 2 weeks and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm still watching them out through the league, and I'm watching them the last day. I still see, like I said, there is no structure for me, even our attacking structure. What game plan? You know, are we just going out and having a go and looking at Sean Shea and David Clifford to dig us out of a hole every time? The one thing that I suppose that was a positive for me the last day was I saw Darragh Moynihan getting on the ball and kicking scores.
Two good points, actually.
Good points. No, he was getting into scoring positions, and we need fellas like that. Killian Burke, I thought, had a very good first half as well. People were wondering why he would have been taken off. I think they were just kind of, he's after a hamstring injury, so I'd say they were keeping an eye on him. They don't want to, if you pull that, you'll probably miss the season. You know, so they're kind of monitoring that. But like I said, overall, I think the result was more important than the performance.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
John Kennedy, Sean O'Brien, Killian Burke, of course, making their senior championship debuts, and so too Adrian Spillane. I mean, when you think about his debut from the start in the championship, it's a difficult step to go from the league into championship motion. How did these three boys get on?
They did okay, you know. I mean, without being brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, it was a day that it was a battle. You know, Cork threw everything at us. They seemed
but
like
that was to be expected, surely.
absolutely.
I mean, last year we were talking about the goal that was or wasn't and the whole lot. I mean, that was the talking point out of that game. If anything, we were probably a little bit more structured this year, maybe, that we kind of reeled them in and got out of jail, maybe. But the way Cork set off, they really had us under massive.
Their pace and their running through, like Liam said, you know, that failing. But when you change around your system and your personnel, particularly in the backs, Jason Foley's a huge loss.
Yeah.
You know, you're upsetting your defence. You know, Tyg Marley went into the corner. You know, you had your Graham O'Sullivan going out to the wing. That stability that we had, Gavin White, not a centre back.
Yeah.
You know, he's a real weapon going forward from the half-back line, but not from the centre. You need to keep that centre closed. Our midfield were under pressure. Ian Maguire and Colin Callahan caused a lot of problems. Cork were slicker. They seemed to be at the right side of the break. You know, they were ahead. Hurley was really almost unmarkable inside, in fairness to him.
He never has a bad game.
Never has a bad game, no. A very good footballer. And that's what we need, is to be asked those questions. But, you know, we came through 12 points from the full forward line. And like Liam said, Dara Mine kicking too. Shawnee Shea, he's back in the groove. We'll be looking for more from our half forward line, I think.
Yeah.
You know, our two wings. Killian Burke, if he did pick up some knock or something, it's a pity he didn't get 70 minutes in championship, because, you know, he won't get the same intensity against Clare, with all due respect. But look, it's a bit rusty. It's a difficult transformation from league to go into championship. Cork had that game under their belt, which was a help.
Yeah.
But when all is said and done, we got the job done.
Yeah. The most alarming thing for me early in the game, I mean, Cork came at us, but they had a lot of one-on-ones with us. I mean, obviously, I suppose maybe just the structure of I suppose the extra man back was missing, because Morley was now marking, I suppose, and you know, he admitted himself he wasn't at 110% either on the fitness, and then if you look at the full back line, I mean, it was made up of half-backs, and half-backs aren't corner-backs.
Yeah. And plus, Cork moved the ball lively, you know, so, and if you move the ball lively, you're going to beat any mass defence, and they did move, like, and they stopped it really after 20 minutes, you know.
Why so, do you think so? I mean, it was unusual. People in the stand were saying, God, we're going to be in for an awful terrorising.
Yeah, they were coming at us at 100 miles an hour.
Slow down. What was it, a case that they kind of even felt from an early stage, we've enough done and we'll just kind of catch them on the counter? Or was it maybe Cork themselves kind of ran themselves into the ground those 20 minutes?
Well, I think that'd be a lot of it. I suppose, look, we always spoke about Division 1 and Division 2 football and stuff like that. There's a big advantage because you're playing at a high intensity in Division 1. You know, it looked like Cork probably, you know, the legs kind of went a small bit and they were trying to recover and get a break, but they could never get back into the groove again. Like, they threw everything at us for the first 20 minutes, and you know, we soaked it in. They called it, and then I suppose after that much effort and not to get the big reward that they should have got out of it, it can hurt. But and I suppose the last 5 or 6 minutes as well, when we were up to 2 points, I suppose people we will get text messages about it, that they didn't come out and go at us. You know, that's something I suppose the Cork management will sit down, like if Kerry are up 2 points and they have the ball, you got to push out. You got to, but you know, is that down to Division 2 and Division 1 football again? And maybe Cork were happy with just kind of showing up and not getting hammered. You know what? You know, but it was. You know, I just think that we were just that little bit cuteness, experience, and cuteness, and I suppose, and like I said, the Division 1 and Division 2 football, there's a big difference.
Yeah, I think most people leaving Fitzgerald Stadium expect that we've done enough to get out of jail, but I mean, we were red hot favourites going into John Kennedy. We were in Division 1, not like last year where we were struggling in Division 1. I mean, we won 5 games in the league. We were going in good form. We were the beaten All-Ireland finalists. We were up that level. Cork, for everything you read about them, are down and they're struggling, and they barely got out of, or stayed in Division 2 maybe, and even stayed in the championship. And yet our defence creaked, but our forward line for the first time, had an awful lot of uncharacteristic mistakes.
They had, which was unusual. It's a topic over the last 2 days, Donal, is that the first touch wasn't good, in control, losing it, and particularly when you see the likes of David Clifford, he turned man, he was gone and lost control. Not typical of the man, in fairness to him, because when they get, so it's just that bit of rustiness. But I think if you look at all the games in the championship, a lot of the top teams like Galway, Mayo even, Terrace certainly, they weren't firing. So maybe there's something to read into that as well. But look, we got the result, but we found it difficult, I think, when Cork ran us, particularly Matty Taylor and Ian Maguire in the middle of the field. Corbett had a great chance of a goal, went over the bar. Cork needed those.
But I just think Cork as well gave up the Kerry kick out too easy. They never pushed up on us. I think we had 18 kick-outs and we won 17 out of it. They didn't push up on us.
And they weren't really competed for too long.
They weren't competed for at all. Whereas in the opposite side, they had 26 kick-outs, and I think we won 7 out of there. So that 7 meant a lot. You're putting pressure on them. I think you have to push up on the kick-outs. I think you're throwing up the white flag straight away if you're going to be, kicking the ball out, letting a team kick the ball out to a corner back or a wing forward or wing back to bring it up the field. And I think that's something that Cork didn't.
Cork's form coming in, Liam, their backs up to the wall with 3 games to go in the league, hold their position, keep, as you said, Donal earlier on, stay on the same.
They're certainly on the rise,
They're certainly on the rise, no doubt about it.
And if you look at underage in the last 5 or 6 years, we're never running away with games against them. No. So it's the players are there
You just want to go shopping in Mahon Point and it's really nice.
That was a couple of years ago. I'm still living off that. I'm embarrassed there from still that. I'm not allowed in there at all yet.
You'll be left in there. Come here. We got to half time. We'd reeled Cork in a small bit, maybe, I suppose. We began to dominate a little bit more. How much of that, John Kennedy, was Cork letting us back in? They kind of gave up after 20-25 minutes. Or else, could they not keep that intensity going? Like the other thing about it too is that it was probably the first fine day of summer, and we got a couple of comments about the Sahara Sand. It didn't arrive by accident; it was around the field. Would that slow players down? I mean, the ball not coming back in. Has that a bearing?
Definitely had an effect. Fitzgerald Stadium is always renowned for being one of the finest sides in the country. Maybe it's down to the weather, getting sand out.
The rain we're after getting.
All that comes into it. They're all contributory factors, and definitely when you're talking about control, it would have an effect and would sap the legs as well. But I think Kerry's experience, what they've built up over the last number of years, they wore Cork down. They didn't do panic, in fairness, and they particularly Shawnee Shea, I think, he took on the responsibility and he kicked 3 or 4 points in the first half. Likewise, David Clifford. Even though people say David wasn't firing on all cylinders, he still ended up with 4 points. But certainly after about the 22nd minute, Cork seemed to drop, and Kerry increased their intensity, made a few changes, tactical changes, and I think they worked. I think the centre was closed up, and the gaping holes weren't there, and the runs were stopped.
My gosh, we're stopped. Well, listen, we'll stop for a quick break, and we have a couple of comments coming. We've loads of comments coming, and we'll get through those after this break. Now you're welcome back to Terrace Talk. Of course, we're talking about the Munster Senior Championship Semi-Final. Kerry's win. It feels like a defeat for some reason. A lot of the comments coming in, they're either on the border of negative or they're fairly negative. Ivan, of course, has skipped out around 6:30 there. We will go live to Garvey Super Value there in Tralee for the Garvey Super Value Senior Hurling Championship draw, and we'll talk about that on as well. Now, Neil Ferter, Donor, County Meath, thanks for joining us, Neil, this evening. Even though we won on Saturday, it was a disappointing performance, on par with our season to date. Some of our key men are not in form, and it's worrying. We seem so passive without any urgency in our play. One thing they need to change is put Morley back at 6 or maybe Breen at 6, but we need to sort out the middle channel. Just what you were saying earlier, I suppose, and I like the way that John Kennedy kind of said that you keep that door closed at 6. It's a crucial part of the jigsaw, isn't it, centre back?
We've said it here a few years ago. It was a problem. And Jack and the boys, they put Morley in at 6 and Jason inside, and they had either Paul or whoever as the sweeper, and it stopped that avenue up the centre. As I said previously, when you make changes and you take guys out, it's difficult to fit in there, and it was a gaping hole for maybe 15-20 minutes the last day. They addressed it, but I think going forward 3 and 6 are vital.
And not only that, we're taken away from Gavin White's game.
Yeah,
because I don't know, can you remember any lunging runs that he had the weekend? There wasn't too many of them. The Gavin White runs that he usually has.
He was under more pressure coming forward anyway.
But see, that's when
he was tracked fairly lively, and they forced a number of turnovers off him actually.
Yeah. So I think he's more flexible and more at kind of at a wing back. You'll get a lot more out of him. Whereas when you're a number 6, you're in tight. You're kind of going to wait and stay there anyway, and kind of hold if you can. Whereas it does take
it restricts his natural talent, doesn't it?
I thought we lost that from Gavin White the weekend.
Hi Donal, Kerry looked very rusty. Will need to improve a lot. They have plenty to work on. Hopefully that game will sharpen up a bit. You can only get better. That's Charles out there as well. How come, Donal, the handling was so bad given we just had a week in Portugal to sharpen up on all of that? That's from Mossy. I think Jack O'Connor alluded to the fact that the trip to Portugal, Mossy, a lot of it was done kind of talking maybe in the heat, game plans and setting up scenarios, and hopefully that is that. Hi Donal and the boys. Boys, how are you boys? Lads, we normally call them lads here, but we'll call them boys.
Call it that worse.
Kerry were lucky to win, but they should have beaten Cork by 7 or 8 points, as Cork are only a Division 2 team. The quicker Jason Foley comes back, the better for the next couple of matches, as I couldn't see Kerry going too far. The midfield need to pull up their socks and work a little bit harder, and Paulie Clifford wasn't himself at all. He should have buried that goal at the back of the net. He also kicked 3 wides, and Kerry and Roscommon were the only 2 counties that didn't score a goal with all the matches that were on over the weekend. Well spotted, Eilish in Tralee. We don't create a lot of goal chances anymore, Liam.
No, and even through the league we haven't. No. So, and I made the comment here before, when David is kind of 1-on-1, it's more of a bullet than the kind of like the Gooch long go. You just pass it into the net. Yep. So it's something, hopefully as time goes on, that we can work a bit more, because goals will win matches. Is it
a skill that we don't teach anymore, John Kennedy? We don't seem to have. I was even at an under 13 match last night, and normally to be goals flying in, the score was 2-10 to 2-15 or something. There wasn't a whole pile of goals either, and if you go down through the leagues, I mean, obviously the under 9s and 11s there's goals going on, but the further up you go, there's less and less goals scored.
Less and less. Is a lot. You see, it's defensive play now, Donal, and they're not taking on the half chance. They're going for the point. Mm-hmm. We kicked 18 points, but I suppose of all the games at the weekend, the Donegal game was an exception one. But other than that, it's conservative. It's taken the option.
One goal chance, and that was Body's chance last day. Other than that, we really had no glaring opportunity.
No, and the defence is set up now. They don't generally. With numbers back, there are not a lot of goal chances, but when you get them, you have to take them.
But be fair to Cork, I didn't think they had any kind of zonal defence in a sense. They went man to man. I mean, Daniel Mahoney done a great job on David Clifford.
He did, and look, you could see David there at the time that he probably did miss the ball once or twice. He wanted to take his man on. He was ready to go, and just that little.
It was from a mark situation. I mean, we were always talking about fellas getting marks and kicking points. I mean, David got a mark, and he said he was going to go.
He wanted to go. You could see there was goal in the back of his head, and he was ready to go. So it's only small little margins, and if we can get them right, I'm sure he'll hit the back of the net. Hopefully by the time the end of the year comes a few times for us.
Yeah, Donal, Kerry will improve. Just take a little more patience with him and time. It's only April. There we go. Remember last year it was only February, it was only March, it was only April. But point given. Donal, David Clifford's form is an actual worry. He was well beat by Daniel Mahoney. For those who were not at the game, they read the reports and see that David scored 4 points. But there is an underlining worry. You kind of mentioned that, all right, John Kennedy. To know that he didn't play well, he still scored 4 points.
Still 4 points.
It's still an incredible amount of.
It is
like an all-star if I did that.
If you look at it, compare it to the hurling there, look at Gerard Hagerty and Keane Lynch. League hurling, they were off. Yeah. They turned around
championship,
So championship
in the space of 10 minutes when they needed
exactly. So I wouldn't worry about David. If it was anybody else, you'd say. But
there was so much attention. There's so much attention always on him anyway. So I think if he
does he get measured in the answers? Obviously,
he does
by an unfair stick.
By his own big high caliber anyway, he gets measured, and I think that there's no fear, David.
Standard he has set and we have to give credit to Kevin Welsh the way he's the Cork defence. Their defensive structure, even though they have a lot of numbers back, their tackling is very good. They're getting hand in, hand out, close, continuous marking, and that's what Mahoney did with David. Sometimes you think he's going to foul him, the hand comes back out, and then he's gone in again and flicks away. Well coached.
I'd be happier with David kicking 3 or 4 points and everybody else kicking 4 or 5 points around him.
Exactly.
Because I know when the big stage comes, there'll be that David will chip in with his bit. So we need everybody else to come up as well.
Donal, Cork were great value. Cork got great value out of their direct ball and their hard running and held their position bravely. But Kerry began to pick them off because they were probably more professional. Now I don't know if they were more professional, but maybe more experienced. Might be the right word than that. Donal, Kerry just can't cope with a direct style of football played against them.
I don't think many teams can. We saw Donegal and Derry the weekend. Teams are so focused now on defensive setups that if teams move the ball, transition, this word transition we all hear about, if you can transition it fast out of defence, and teams are really under pressure then.
Yeah, this team need to wake up. We're all wide awake, to be fair, caller. There was a massive roar for the Cork goal, lads. There was a great buzz. It felt like a Munster final. Haven't seen this in a long time in Fitzgerald Stadium. When Cork got the goal, I mean, the place kind of shook a bit, all right, to be fair.
It did, yeah.
So early in the game as well. The atmosphere at it was 17,500 people. The day was absolutely fine. And a lot of people talking to me during the day, they didn't go to the game, they stayed in town and watched it on telly.
But traditionally, the Cork supporters love coming to Killarney.
Yeah.
They'd hardly go to Partney Keeve, but they'll come to Killarney for the weekend. So there was a great atmosphere, and of course the sun shining then as well. It was kind of Munster. It was a kind of a Munster Championship kind of weather. And
to be very fair, the first 20 minutes felt like a throwback to the old days where it was just direct football. There was chaos everywhere. Fellas were kicking ball, chasing each other. They didn't know
there was goal opportunities.
There was goal opportunities. Yeah. And it just felt, John Kennedy, after the 20th minute, both managers said, "Oh, hold on here, lads. This isn't what we came down here to do at all. We go back to what we're at." But that first 20 minutes of entertainment value alone for that game, that was fantastic.
Oh, it was, and it set the tone. People are talking about that. It was a decent game overall. Yeah. But the first 20 minutes it had everything. Goal chances and missed chances and misplaced passes and stuff, but it set the tone, and it was a great start to the game.
Now get your comments into us here. We're talking about Kerry versus Cork, of course, the Munster Semi-Final. Kerry, of course, won it. You wouldn't know, I suppose, tonight, a lot of people feeling like we lost it, but we didn't lose. We did go on to the next round. A lot of people, John Kennedy, want to talk about, I suppose they said the last 5 minutes. I don't think it was technically the last 5 minutes, but definitely from the 65th minute to the 71st minute. Kerry done maybe a Dr. Crokes, did they?
Well, I suppose it was a 3-point game, Donal. And you get.
And what we were alluding to before we start is obviously, like you said, it was a 3-point game. Kerry had the ball and they decided to hang on to it for quite a while.
Yeah. It's becoming part of our game now. You'll just wind down the clock. You're a few points up.
Cork never came out.
Never came out. Kerry did what they did and did it well. Mm-hmm. But it was up to Cork to come out and press them and put them under pressure. They didn't do it. Kerry would just go over and back the field. No point in giving away a ball and conceding a goal at that stage. Yeah. And they did it.
People got fairly angsty in the stand, though, to be fair. I mean, after 2 or 3 minutes,
it's not what people want.
They want the ball thrown in high and long. But obviously that's not going to happen in today's world. I mean, the ball gets turned over, you're out of position, they're down the field. Like you said, a goal in the back of the net straight away. It's not what they come to watch, but it's become part of the game, Liam.
It has, yeah. And look, Jack O'Connor wanted to win, and the Kerry management, so and the Kerry players weren't going to kick the ball into maybe 7 or 8 Cork defenders inside the full back line, and when they weren't coming out, sure, all you do. And I was even kind of saying, just hold on to it. If they don't want to come out, we'll hold on to it till the final whistle, And that was, I suppose, the one thing that was disappointing with Cork, that Jesus, were they happy just to be beat by the couple of points and go away with a moral victory? No, you need to push out.
What should Cork have done at that stage? Obviously come out and try and tackle the ball and the whole lot, but then they get opened up.
But look, you might as well beat by 10 points as beat by 2 points. You have to go at it. If they pushed out, there might be a turnover, there might be a kick back to the goalkeeper, they might have intercepted it, but the way they were playing, there was going to be no turnover. That's the way football has gone now.
Jack O'Connor alluded to it, to be fair to him. He said that's not what the crowd might be looking for, but at that stage of the game, we were 2 or 3 points up. It was up to Cork to come out, and we weren't going to force it. And we worked the ball well, and Mike Breen slipped the ball into David for a free. So I wouldn't be giving it a 10 out of 10, but it was an efficient performance in the second half.
That's where a bit of experience, and when you're at that level, that you keep it calm. Like I said, the fans mightn't like it, and that's what they paid money to go in. But unfortunately, that's the way football has gone now. Until they maybe tinkle the rules a small bit and get away with that.
Yeah.
But like Cork were sitting back, they had 14, 15 men behind the ball, so we didn't, like, Kerry weren't going to kick the ball in. No, so like it was just, I suppose.
Well, it wasn't for the purist anyway.
Wasn't for the purist, but you couldn't blame Kerry for it.
You're going to see a lot more of it.
You were going to see it, and you couldn't blame Kerry for it.
I suppose, as we said earlier, Donal, the first 20 minutes was the opposite.
It was all chaos.
So in fairness, it was good game management by the players to just close down the clock and get over the line.
And that's interesting you mentioned the players. I mean, at some stage on the field of play, Jack isn't obviously running into the field and saying, do this now, lads, and the whole lot. Who takes charge of that situation? Is it the more senior players? Is it the guy in the ball? Is it 3 or 4 fellas kind of just keep it together? How does that message get across? Or does it kind of ripple effect that the players know what's happening? Because Shane Ryan got on that ball, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, to be fair. Came back to the goal and back out again, the whole lot.
A lot of it would be experience.
Could be experience, and it wasn't percentage stuff either. They were comfortable giving the passes. Yeah. They weren't under pressure.
They were all 20-yard passes. The Cork player within distance.
All these games would be behind in corners as well. You'd have all these scenarios, that we're up 2 points and we'll hold on to the ball. So they would have gone through these scenarios in training anyway as well. But it was made easier when Cork didn't come out and mark them. Because it was just handy passes, like we could pass around the table here. There was no pressure put on them.
You understand, it goes back to basketball. There's 4 seconds on the clock, and you have to foul your man to send him down to get the baskets, and hopefully he misses, you get the ball back again. There's a bit of that to it.
There's a bit of that to it, and I suppose, look, the way the football has been played now, it was players kind of program defensively. What I couldn't understand is, and you said it there, Donal, that you think on your feet when you're on the field. No, the Cork players, was there any responsibility out in the Cork players to say, lads, we got to push up here, we're down 2 or 3 points? Were they waiting for the sideline to say it? They just sat back.
The only thing, Liam, is when you have possession of the ball late in the game, it's a lot easier to keep it and move to keep it than when you don't have it.
You don't have it,
You're running, and you're running nowhere, closing down, and it's sapping the energy, whereas you're dictating when you have the ball.
Exactly, yeah.
Lovely comment coming in here. Donal, Niall Callahan, not only would he have pushed up, he'd have pushed them out as well. I'm sure Niall would certainly have done it. Going on to Cork, a call in there from Rob O'Keefe from County Cork. Thanks, Rob. And away from the match, but kind of very, I suppose, tied in with the match as well. First of all, it was great to get back to a great venue like Killarney for Cork versus Kerry. The new road makes Killarney very accessible now, and one can get there in no time at all. The town was buzzing with colour, and the walk up the Lewis Road in glorious sunshine added to the occasion. However, the situation at the turnstiles entering the terraces was nothing short of ridiculous, and thank God there was not an incident. With people's patience, the only reason an accident was averted. Kerry J would want to be seriously assess this. If there was 25,000 attendance, I would have been seriously worried about the lack of safety, crowd planning and stewarding. Well done to both teams on a great match, and that was Rob O'Keefe. Certainly, probably between the hours of 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, particularly after 3 o'clock, there was a good squeeze outside the gates of people coming in and not knowing what section they were going to. And some people went to sections where they were, I suppose the gates weren't basically open is a thing. Maybe they were never meant to be open. But it is kind of a worry. And of course, I got on the Kerry J, and of course, it's run, of course, by Munster Council. And Munster Council, of course, bring in their own stewards and all that, and all the guys in the yellow jackets are, I suppose they're not Kerry people, I suppose is what we're saying, and maybe whatever. But it is kind of a worry, that somebody comes to a game, they feel they're going to be crushed going in the gate and the whole lot. Obviously it didn't happen. And look, obviously people will probably look at it and review it. And I suppose there's fellas sitting down this evening all over the place on Zoom calls and saying, well, look, this is something that we need to brush up on the whole lot. Should there be more gates opened?
Well, I suppose, look, the pressure at the gates comes on probably the hour before the match, because people will spill out of the bars and they'll head up. I suppose that's something that the Munster Council will probably have to look at, maybe have a couple of gates open and be ready for that influx.
It's a pure Irish thing. We all want to go, but we all want to come in the gate to it 3:30.
Like, I love going to matches early. You meet people, not only that, you watch the warm-up. I love watching the warm-ups and stuff like that. But it's not for some people. They'd rather rock up 10 minutes before the game, and there's a lot of people like that. And then I suppose there is pressure at the gates, so many people can go in at a time.
And of course the process of the gate is slower now. Before you go in, you show your ticket off, you went. Now you have to have it scanned, you must open your phone, you must it slows down the process for a lot of people, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And like Liam said, part of the problem is last minute. I won't say an hour is a good time, but if you have 7,000 or 8,000 people coming in the last hour, You know, that doesn't belong building up at the gate.
Yeah.
You're saying the slower process, and it's something that's difficult. You go to Croke Park, equally.
Yeah.
Same story. You know, simple stadium. You know, if you go to a hurling game there, it's the same thing. The people leave it to the last half an hour, 40 minutes. All of a sudden, then they're giving out. You know, if you're there the hour before it and you're in, it's comfortable. But it's
and then the other side of that, John Kennedy, and it was a gripe I had last year. I mean, if anybody that knows me would know I'd be there 4 hours before, and then I'd be sitting in my seat and everything would be like, I absolutely hate the crowd that come in at 10 to 4 and push you in off your seat, and you're there and you have a nice little corner, maybe you're an aisle seat and the whole lot. Next thing there's some fella pushing you in, and will you just push in another small bit? And you know, other supporters are squeezed that way.
No, it's my pet hate, Donal, and whether it's Croke Park or whoever it is, guys coming in, the game is on, everybody has to get up to him in. Then they find out when they're at the end of the line, they have to go back out again. It's terrible stuff.
Yeah.
It's terrible stuff now.
I was talking to a Cork person actually after the game, and they were saying that some of us came in so late they were asking who scored the Cork goal. Well, it was scored fairly lively, to be fair, and that's all part of the process. Yeah, absolutely. We talked about the buzz of Fitzgerald Stadium. I mean, when Fitzgerald Stadium showcases itself, I mean, obviously the sun was out. I mean, the field, it was I suppose, to be fair, it was a battle between Cork and Kerry, a tradition that goes back forever and ever, and it will continue into the history books on that. But the overall atmosphere, Liam, you know, was it a good day for kids and family and the whole lot? I mean, you had a bit of sun, you had the thing. The game mightn't live long in the memory, but the whole process of the tradition of bringing your kids back to the Munster
it was,
thing,
yeah.
You know.
And I suppose if we go to the Cork roar there when they got the goal,
yeah,
you know, that was like the roar long goal, you know, there was that rivalry roar, you know, that kind of a thing. It did kind of, we were all kind of going, oh Jesus, what's going to happen here, like, because they were after missing a goal a couple of 30 seconds
I can remember the first roar. I remember it was John Cronin's roar the day that we had no chance of beating them in 91, and Kerry had gone, I don't know where we were never winning Munster finals, and that roar, I mean, people jumping up and down off seats and knocking each other over. It brings a great joy to people, doesn't it?
It does, and that occasion, I can think back to the one 98, and they had to be left in behind the goals, and there was such a crowd there, and it was just that roar, and the sun was shining again like the last day, and you know, there were things that we were brought up, and John, when you were playing as well, like they were just amazing, and it was nice to see it back, because I thought in the last couple of years above in Cork it had died down a small bit. You know, the day we bet above in Partney Ring, and we beat them by 12 or 13 points, and I met Cork people coming out the door that day, and they were happy that it was only 12 and 13, and I was saying, where's this gone, like, you know, is the Kerry Cork rivalry gone this bad? You know, so it's nice to see kind of.
And you do need it, John. I mean, look, we're looking at Ulster. I mean, Leinster's probably gone to the dogs in that sense. Connacht still kind of has it. I mean, Sligo the weekend, you know, I mean, if they had a bit of luck, they'd be in Galway, you know.
Very
you know, so they're kind of still in the mix. But in Munster, it's dying a small bit. But uniquely enough, Clare are in their second Munster final back to back in something like, I know, 70 odd years or something. You know, they're building a small bit of momentum. Obviously they're big, I suppose, dusting down they got last year. I mean, they will learn from it. New manager as well.
Yeah, it's great for Clare, and Clare are all, you know, in the last number of years under Colin Collins, and now Mark Fitzgerald, you know, they've done really well.
Great league campaign.
Campaign, and you know, went to the last day. Promotion was decided by the game above in Newry, so fair play to them. And you know, it's Sam Maguire status retained, but going back to Cork, like, you know, tremendous rivalry, friendly rivalry, great banter. Going back to our time, I remember, you know, you'd be in the Park Place, you'd be going up through the crowds, and you know, Mico and Bomber and Jacko in particular, when they'd come out, Paddy Shea, God be good to him, you know, the Cork crowd, there was a bit of banter going on. That was part and parcel of it. You didn't get that in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, but you got it in Fitzgerald Stadium, and a brilliant venue. Cork people tell you they love coming down.
They travel strong.
Yeah, and it's great to see Cork coming back, because Munster football needs them. They need them, definitely. We still like to beat them, but you need them.
You just stay ahead of them.
Stay ahead of them.
Slightly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully we'll stay ahead of them for another small bit longer anyway. Donal, did Cork just run out of gas? High intensity kicking and attacking. It was non-existent for the second half. I think they ran out of gas. I think we kind of feel they did, to be fair to them.
They threw everything at us, and that was as good as they had.
That's it. What more can we say about it? I say we done fairly well looking after a game that most people kind of figured out was probably a bit on the bland side. I mean, at the end of the day, Jack O'Connor won. He was delighted to get out of that. Cork probably have their, I suppose, they've got good markers out of as well. Let's quickly, with 4 minutes, let's quickly go to Ulster. We're mad about Ulster. Donegal, huh?
Well,
he's winning matches.
Fair play to Jim McGuinness.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's come back in there. By what we hear, the team looked in super shape.
I got a lovely quote during the week of some fella, Jim McGuinness, the guy who destroyed football only to come back and save it.
Yeah, they played very, very well. They attacked, led and orchestrated by Ryan McHugh, I think. He was absolutely brilliant.
And the Derry goalkeeper.
And the Derry goalie. But they went at it. They went at it, Donal, in fairness. They had a few debutants there. You know, McBrearty back, a structure about them, playing with a passion.
I couldn't believe their speed in their transition.
Yeah.
I mean, they got out fairly quickly and they travelled down the field at a speed of knots. Plus, they were very accurate at the other end.
Very accurate, tremendous fitness built up, great pace, you said, the transition, and above all, they're playing for McGuinness. You know, total contrast to the Donegal of last year and the year before. And, you know, they're a team that, regardless what happens next weekend, they're a team you wouldn't like to draw later on.
No. And Derry, on the other hand, Liam, I mean, Conor Glass and the boys, they've been on the road a long time now. I mean, is it only kind of signs that they're going to quake a small bit?
Yeah, and I think this will suit Derry. I know the loss will hurt, but I think this will suit Derry because they'll have about 5 weeks now to get things, a bit of a break and to get things in order, whereas Donegal will have to go out next weekend, and usually whoever comes out of Ulster in the Ulster Championship is well beaten, you know, physically well beaten by the time they come out.
There's an awful strain put on.
There is, you know, because it's week in, week out. Whereas Derry now will go back to the drawing board a small bit, and there'll be a crowd now that'll go in as, what will they go in, seed 3, is it, in the division, in the groups now?
They could end up with us anyway,
you know, so I wouldn't like to be facing into them now. But you got to give it to Donegal, like John said, flying fit. Do anything for,
and yet they're no way close to winning an Ulster Championship yet. I mean, they obviously have to overcome.
They have a long way to go yet, yeah.
More games.
But it just goes back to our point, and we spoke about it here. Will the goalkeeper stay inside goals?
Well, you don't need goalkeepers,
and farther they're coming up the field. You know, before the goalkeeper would come out to the 45 maybe.
To be fair, not many teams will have a Sean Patton that can kick a ball 80 yards.
You know, it's something, and we've seen it down with last year to goalkeepers are getting longer with their kickouts. You know, we could have got a couple of goals down and we did a couple of years ago.
We got one already, sure, in the league this year. Did we catch him as well?
That's right, yeah. You know, so like if he stayed in goals the last day, like Derry could have won that game. You know, that's the margins you were talking about. I know we're looking at this new age football and we're trying to invent stuff, but by God, bringing the goalkeeper up for kickouts, you know, it's kind of, I don't know, it's a bit.
So, Jesus, about 15 minutes ago, you were saying it was great stuff to hang on to the ball for 6 minutes.
Well, that's all right, when there's no one marking you.
I think you'd make a great selector, actually.
Well, the goalkeeper be staying in goals, you
You'd have the same amount of arguments for taking him off than leaving him on.
Midfield, take off the corner forward.
The poor corner forward. Listen, guys, we will go at it again next week. We'll do the preview next week as well, and we look at the County Championship, obviously, in Kerry as well. A lot of detail. I met a guy at the weekend. He said, will you, for the love of God, please explain it some night on Terrace Talk, and we'll do it next week. Number of changes coming into the County Championship. The districts are still there anyway. Don't worry, John, if you're listening out, we're not getting rid of any districts. We will make it slightly harder for them to get into the actual championship proper, but they certainly aren't going away, and there will be more clubs on the way in as well. But up after the break, 7 o'clock, we're going to turn it over to hurling. Fantastic result yesterday for the Kerry senior team in the Joe McDonagh. Nobody saw that result coming, certainly not 2V anyway. I mean, you probably didn't even know they were playing hurling, did you?
We did.
You're awful bad footballers. But we will talk to a couple of the lads involved in the Garvey Super Value Championship as well, and get a little bit of reaction to the draw, all that after the break, and we will go to news.